Naruto exclusive videos lemon come out on my boosty. You can watch and subscribe. Link in the description. Enjoy watching. Description: a boy to survive in the shinobi world, and even harder for a girl. Naruto Uzumaki has never been as resilient as her male reflection from the canon, and therefore, under the pressure of hatred and indifference, the girl withdraws into herself and tries to escape from reality through books, which have become her only friends and training. Chapter 1: A little about Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto Uzumaki. Who is she? For the peaceful inhabitants of Konoha, he is a disaster, a monster, and a nightmare all rolled into one. For experienced shinobi, a stuck-up girl is the cause of all their troubles. For other children, she's that Uzumaki, the girl. Don't talk to her. The main secret of her parents, and the subject of ridicule. Who was she really? A little beauty? An orphan? An outcast? All of this is true, but only half true. First and foremost, Uzumaki Naruto was a person. Yes, quiet, yes, modest, yes, weak, but a person. She had a flexible character, and a will of steel. Only this and free access to the library helped her not to give up. The girl learned to read from an early age. It would seem that she was a good girl, a genius girl, a miracle girl. But for everyone she was a monster, and books were more of a necessity than a whim. After all, a person is a social creature, and therefore, in order not to be broken by loneliness, not to break down from powerless attempts to break through the wall of contempt and hatred, not to burn in the flames of hateful glances in the back, the girl needed an outlet. The only friend, another world on sheets of paper, in which there is neither hatred nor Naruto herself. A girl doomed to hatred. At first, the girl read simple fairy tales, since there was nothing serious in the modest library of the orphanage, and she was not allowed to go to the public one. But this could not continue forever. When the girl was barely 5, they finally started letting her go out on the streets alone, as if in the hope that one day she would simply not return to the orphanage. But she did return, often late at night, often with a new book, often with bruises and abrasions. The caretakers, in general, did not care. They turned a blind eye to everything that concerned young Uzumaki, seemingly ignoring her very existence. And the girl ran to the city library, for books or just to sit. The atmosphere there was its own, special. It seemed that everything around breathed antiquity. In the far corner, behind a high shelf with books covered in a huge layer of dust, Naruto's favorite nook was located. A huge window on half a wall opened up a view of the beautiful courtyard around the library and had an equally huge windowsill. 2 compact chairs, with the help of which the girl climbed onto the windowsill. A neat table covered, it seemed, with an even greater layer of dust. It was cozy and quiet there. Naruto thought that no one would find her there. However, no matter how much Uzumaki loved the library, she had no desire to sit there all the time. The girl successfully convinced herself that it was because she needed to train to become a strong kunoichi, and not because there was an evil old woman on duty on Tuesdays and Fridays. And people began to look at her even more hatefully because of her visits, and certainly not because she was afraid that sooner or later someone would find her secret corner. However, this does not change the fact that Naruto was training. She would run to the farthest corner of the forest, tie her bright red hair into a high ponytail and begin her warm-up. The girl had no idea how to train properly, but in this matter her only friends helped her books. Of course, there were no books for real shinobi in the public library, but there were books on martial arts and many books for academy students. Naruto herself had not yet gone to the academy, so she could only ask printed publications. However, she hoped that everything would change soon. Soon there would be a new school year, and this time she would definitely enter the academy. And she would have a real teacher. Let him not be her personal one, but he would be an adult, to whom she could always approach with a question. At least, Naruto hoped that she would be able to. In the meantime, all she could do was meditate and learn taijutsu techniques. And try to repeat simple techniques from books on martial arts. It was hard to study like that, but Uzumaki had always been a persistent girl. True only in her studies. Academy, Shinobi World. Wait. One day she will become a very strong kunoichi, but for now her goal is to become the best in her studies. And she will not give up until she achieves it. Maybe. Chapter 2: A little about the Shinobi Academy. The Shinobi Academy turned out to be not such a rosy place as the girl imagined it to be. Everyone around her still stared at her with those "Monster empty space, I know you are a monster" looks and avoided her. Of course, it felt much softer than during her rare forays into the city, but it did not make it any easier. The teachers, experienced shinobi, who looked at her the same way, did not add to her optimism. The girl always thought that they definitely should not look at her like that. They were shinobi. They should understand that she was no monster and that she simply could not physically do anything to them. But they looked. They looked with the same mixture of hatred and hidden fear. The same way the girl looked at especially zealous haters. This discovery finally disabused the girl of the idea that she would ever have her own teacher. Can a monster even have its own teacher? No. She doesn't need any teacher. She can learn everything she needs herself. After all, she has books. Lots of books in the academy library. There should definitely be the teaching materials she needs there. The presence of books nearby always had a strange calming effect on the girl, giving her the opportunity to immerse herself in the books entirely, as if forgetting that the real world even existed. But the real world, as a rule, never forgot about her. Constant whispers and sidelong glances followed her absolutely everywhere, not giving her a moment of peace, forcing her to think more and more often about the reason for this whispering. She just wanted to come up and ask. But who would answer the monster? Okay. No time to get upset. Today, during the introductory lesson, the teacher ignored her clarifying question on the topic. Well, she'll have to find the answer herself. Naruto is sure she can do it. Practicing taijutsu strikes from the textbook had already become a common practice for the girl. They helped her to distract herself. To distract herself from the emptiness, from loneliness, from hatred, human and her own. It helped to bring her thoughts back to normal and focus on her goal to become a strong kunoichi. Why did she need it? Even the girl herself did not know. She simply needed a goal, and she had no other interests than studying and training. In these 2 months, the girl had made great progress. Of course, only by her own standards. She diligently read and reread the theory, learned seals and mastered the basics of taijutsu, like everyone else in her class, and also learned the meaning of flowers and diligently made ikebana in the courses for little kunoichi, which are mandatory for all girls. In addition to all this, the girl trained herself, in her favorite clearing in the forest. In proud solitude, she endlessly honed her skills, be it throwing shurikens, and in her case ordinary stones, because there was no money for shurikens. At targets she hung herself, or all the same taijutsu. However, the taijutsu that Naruto taught her was not the same as the one that her teacher showed her. No, it was not better or worse. Naruto just suspected that the teacher was intentionally teaching her the wrong moves. However, it was possible that he had simply made a mistake, or had forgotten the basics of taijutsu over the years, replacing them with his own style. Naruto was not sure. However, the girl knew one thing for sure: books are often much better than people. Barely half a year had passed, and Naruto was ready to give up and quit. No, she was doing quite well, she was even the best in her class and grades, but that was not the point. It seemed to the girl that everyone, absolutely everyone, the teachers of the academy, and even some other shinobi, whom she encountered completely by chance, hated her. They singled her out in every possible way, but not in a good way. They tried to lower her grade or give her a penalty. They tried to blame her for any prank that happened at school or in the city as a whole. They looked at her with that same look. In a word, they showed her their ardent dislike. And if only that were all there was to it. The girl was already accustomed to the hatred of adults. Thank goodness, she had been living here for many years, but her classmates, such nice boys and girls the same age as her, all of them, did not like her either. Naruto sincerely did not understand why. What had she done to them? Why did the cute, pink-haired girl Sakura look at her with fear? Why did the blonde girl Ino hate her so much? Why did she only have to approach the silent boy named Shino, who sat at the third desk by the window, and he shrank away from her as if she had the plague. What had she done to deserve all this? The girl didn't understand any of it. She just wanted to fall down and cry. But she was a strong girl, she wouldn't cry. She'd rather practice. Training is clearly more productive than pointless attempts to make friends, the girl was thinking. Today was their first lesson in military tactics. However, this was not what was worrying the girl at all. Her thoughts were occupied with another ordinary lecture from Irika-sensei. And not even with the lecture itself, but with just one phrase. A shinobi carrying out a mission is obliged to follow its goal to the end. The order is above all. It seemed like such a mediocre phrase. Everyone knows that. Orders are not discussed, and so on. But for some reason it caught her attention. It sounded as if on a mission a shinobi was not a person, but a machine. An interesting thought. Decided. Naruto wanted to become such a machine forever. Machines don't feel anything. Chapter 3: A little about non-genin tests. The time was approaching for the third, decisive test for genin. Naruto, as befits a diligent student of the academy, was worried. She repeated the materials she already knew day and night, and diligently worked on everything that could be worked on, and when there was nothing left to work on, she went to train. The reason for such behavior of the ice girl, the honored Snow Queen of the entire academy, was quite understandable. The third test for genin is considered decisive, and if you fail it, the road to ninja is closed for you. In general, such tests were conducted on a stream every 2 years and anyone could participate in them if they wanted. Passed genin, failed there would be more attempts. The only exception was the test for the 6th year of study. Year of graduation. If you fail this test, that's it, you fail. Final exams are always scary and exciting at the same time. You're afraid that you won't pass, while realizing that here it is your cherished dream, just reach out your hand. Naruto, like all the other guys, knew perfectly well that the test would consist of 3 parts: written, where you will need to answer the questions you got on the ticket; part with taijutsu, in which your physical skills are tested; and the part with ninjutsu, in which you need to correctly perform 1 to 3 techniques trained at the academy. When Naruto took the first test, she got the cloning technique, which they had not yet covered, and the second time, the substitution technique, which she had only just become familiar with at that time, so it was not surprising that she failed both tests. However, this time the girl was sure that she could not fail. Giving in to excitement and habitually adjusting the mask that had been covering half of her face for some time now, Naruto confidently stepped into the academy building. As in previous times, there were no problems with the first 2 parts of the exam. The girl was well read enough to answer any question from the test, and strong enough to easily cope with the second task. The third part was approaching. The clock struck 11 in the morning and the door to the classroom opened. Irika-sensei stood on the threshold, their homeroom teacher, and one of the examiners of the third part. More than half an hour had passed since the start of the third test, and the number of people had decreased significantly. Some were coming out with a protector, some were in tears. Naruto's turn was inexorably approaching. Surprisingly, the girl did not feel any excitement. She knew in advance that she would definitely pass this test, no matter what they asked her. This knowledge was as natural as the need for oxygen, but as destructive as its lack. Uzumaki. It was her turn to show herself. The location of the third part this time was an ordinary classroom. Not the one Naruto studied in, of course. But let's be honest, they were not much different. There were desks and chairs everywhere, a blackboard in front, and bookcases at the back of the classroom. Everything is as usual. Once again adjusting the mask the girl had bought less than a year ago to hide the birthmarks on her cheeks, the girl confidently approached the examiners sitting at the table. This year there were only 2 of them, Irika-sensei and Mizuki-sensei. To be honest, Mizuki, no matter how kind he was to Naruto, she still didn't like him. There was something unpleasant about him. The girl's strange instincts constantly told her not to trust him. And Naruto herself found the teacher's behavior strange. He was too polite, especially against the background of the villagers' attitude towards her. In a word, the situation was not rosy. On one side, there was the honest, but unable to stand her, Iruka-sensei, on the other side, the falsely kind and cloyingly polite Mizuki-sensei, who did not understand what he wanted from her. Okay. Pull yourself together. Your task now is to pass the test, not to think about your relationship with the teachers. What if this were a battle? Would you also think about your interaction with the enemy, and not about the battle? Walking out of the office with the protector down on her neck, Naruto was pleased with herself. Even though she had been assigned clones on the test, which she frankly disliked, she had still done well and even showed one of the best results, so now all that was left was to wait for the distribution into teams. In the meantime, you can take a break, go shopping, buy a new suit for the occasion, and go tell Mr. Third that Mizuki-sensei is acting really weird. Chapter 4: A little about teams of 3. Distribution into teams. Naruto was simultaneously waiting for and not waiting for this significant event. On the one hand, the team is a set of people she hardly knows, with whom she will have to cooperate willy-nilly, which the girl would like to avoid. On the other hand, after the division, they will finally begin their first missions. And although the girl did not count on anything very interesting, they are, after all, just yesterday's students, but the missions also meant the first salary. In addition to the fact that this was an important emotional moment, the first money earned by honest work, it also promised to improve the shaky financial situation of Naruto, who lived at the expense of the orphan aid fund and the scholarship issued by the academy. Lack of money often became the reason for slowing down training or worsening already not very good relationships with classmates or any other people. And although Naruto always coped and rarely complained, but extra money would definitely not be superfluous. After all, yesterday she had to spend half of the month's supply on a new set of clothes and a genin set, which contained the bare minimum of weapons she needed. However, it was worth it. Naruto's appearance today caused a furor in the class. It wasn't that she had previously been considered ugly or unattractive, but old or simply worn clothes, even if neat, always spoiled the whole look. So when the girl came in a new outfit, and with her hair gathered in 2 disheveled buns, everyone who saw her was shocked. Naruto was pleased with herself. She had to spend more than 2 hours in the store to choose a beautiful, and most importantly comfortable set of a turtleneck with sleeves, which was black, in tone with the mask worn on the face, a dark turquoise vest without fasteners, dark lilac shorts with the same dark pink belt, a blue cloak, divided into 6 pieces, at the end of each of which there was a dark purple strip of fabric, and blue stockings. All this disgrace was complemented by standard shinobi shoes, except with closed toes, and 2 bags for weapons, both in tone with the shorts, dark lilac with dark purple fasteners. During the entire time it took her to choose this outfit, the girl had to listen to the grumbling of a disgruntled consultant who did not want to serve a demon, but did not have the right to kick out a client when he was a genin. A little later, returning home, the girl thought for a long time about what to do with her not-so-short hair. She absolutely did not want to cut it, but in battle it would only get in the way. The solution did not come quickly, but it did come. Naruto decided to simply gather it into 2 voluminous buns, leaving only the bangs and front strands. Why not? It is both convenient and quite practical. Naruto was frankly bored. All of this year's graduates, and there were only 27 of them, most of whom would most likely remain genin forever, had already gathered in the auditorium, waiting for Iruka-sensei, who had not yet arrived. And although no one had told them the exact time, Naruto honestly hoped that the teachers would arrive by 10. But apparently it was not meant to be. Uzumaki looked around the class with a bored look. There, at the 3rd desk in the central row, Sakura was clinging to Uchiha, and at the desk behind her, the snob Yamanaka, as the girls from the stream called her, was indignant that Sakura was climbing up to her Sasuke-kun. Honestly, Naruto barely understood the girl's love for this arrogant guy. Yes, he was handsome. Yes, he was strong. Yes, he had a tragic story like the hero of a cheap melodrama. But this did not make him better. At least, in Naruto's opinion, the same Shikamaru and Chuji with Kiba deserved no less, if not more attention. The first, albeit lazy, was definitely a genius. The second was very kind and, in general, was always happy to help. And the third was just a constant lump of positivity, albeit very prickly. Perhaps these three could be called, if not Naruto's friends, then at least buddies. She couldn't have had any friends, she was a machine. And a machine can have friends. A machine simply doesn't have a sense of attachment to anyone. At the first desk in the same row as Uchiha and his anonymous fan club, there was the modest Hinata. The girl seemed to be not bad, but she was too timid for the heiress of a clan, especially such an influential one as Hyuga. Shino, a quiet boy from the Aburame clan, was sitting at the second desk in the row against the wall. He was strange, spoke almost in verse, and bugs were constantly flying around him. Naruto wasn't afraid of bugs, but she didn't go near Shino. The memory of him recoiling from her was still fresh in her mind, despite the fact that more than 5 years had passed. The last desk in the same row was occupied by the aforementioned Kiba with his puppy Akamaru. To be honest, in the first year of the academy, they didn't get along with Naruto at all. Inuzuka started picking on Naruto for her hair color from the very first day, so it seemed to her that they would never get along. But everything changed. Not right away, by the 3rd year, but it changed. One day, Naruto simply supported Kiba's little lie, so he wasn't punished for his misdeed, and since then they communicated quite well. If they communicated. Shika and Chuji sat down next to Ino, already knowing that they would be assigned to the same team. Everyone, including Naruto, was sure of it. They certainly had nothing to worry about. The rest of the guys in the room were not interesting to Naruto. She didn't even know half of them, and the other half seemed too weak to rise above genin. Actually, Sakura wasn't particularly strong either, in Naruto's opinion, but the girl respected the pink-haired girl's efforts, as well as her grades. It would take some effort to overtake Naruto in studies, even if only in the 5th year. Perhaps the girl would have continued to ponder about Haruno's mythical power if Iruka-sensei hadn't come to the classroom. Finally, Iruka-sensei's opening speech, like any lecture, was rather boring, but Naruto still listened. Soon you will begin to carry out tasks, so today we will divide you into teams of 3 people, and each team will be assigned an instructor jounin. This instructor will be the group leader during the tasks. Well, that was to be expected. Naruto already knew all this either from the Third Lord, who occasionally dropped by to check on her and help her with something, or from books for beginner shinobi. Surprisingly, there was even an old book lying around in the school library that described the principle by which teams were divided. And Uzumaki even had suspicions about her teammates, but this was the first time she wanted to be wrong. But Iruka-sensei was relentless. Team number 7, Haruno Sakura, Uzumaki Naruto. Well, there you go. And why couldn't she have made a mistake? Well, she wouldn't be able to do anything anyway. And the third will be, and Uchiha Sasuke. Well, it wasn't pleasant, but it was expected. No, overall they were a good team, in theory. If you put aside the incompatibility of characters, then, Naruto admitted, the team was not bad. But that's if, and in reality everything was not as rosy as one would like. Mentor Kakashi Hatake. Sigh, it's been more than an hour since the end of the lunch break, and our sensei still hasn't come. Should we wait for him at all? Naruto didn't have an answer to this question. On the one hand, she wanted to leave, because spending so much time in the same room with Uchiha and Haruno was beyond the red-haired girl's strength, especially while waiting for a person who wasn't familiar with the word punctuality. On the other hand, she was told to wait for the teacher here, and she, as a diligent shinobi, was obliged to wait for him. In the battle of duty and character, duty always won. Was it because Naruto was trying to eradicate her character altogether, or was duty simply more compelling in its arguments? It was unclear. Once again, sighing sadly, the girl laid her head on the desk. How could she understand Shikamaru now? And why couldn't the teacher come faster? At that moment the door opened and a man entered the room. Tall, silver hair, one eye hidden by a protector, the other black. On his face was the same mask as Naruto. He was dressed in the usual clothes of the Jonin. Sensei as sensei. Naruto was very happy to see him, if only because she was tired of waiting. Let's go to the roof, okay? Perhaps you should introduce yourself. Was he serious? Naruto felt like the day couldn't get any worse than it already was. First, she had to listen to a long and boring lecture that she already knew, then she had to wait a long time for sensei in the company of people she clearly didn't like, and now she was being asked to tell him information that the teacher probably already knew. It was going to be a long day. What do you want to know? That's right, Haruno, take matters into your own hands. Naruto herself was surprised by her thoughts. They were too dissatisfied. This was bad. Emotions are weakness. It was time to stop this disgrace. Well, what you like, what you don't like. Your dreams, hobbies, and so on. What do you like? It will be difficult. Or maybe you can set an example. Gods, why is my voice so hoarse? I was just talking yesterday. Yeah. Right. Who are you anyway? Well, my name is Kakashi Hatake. I don't want to tell you what I like and what I don't. Dreams? I have a lot of hobbies. In the end, he didn't tell us anything except his name. Well, he doesn't have to, this is a presentation, not a report. Well, now it's your turn. Let's start with you, I suppose. Me? What should I say? I am Uzumaki. Naruto. I like reading and training. I don't like lazy people, weaklings, and prejudices. I have a goal to become a strong kunoichi. Hobbies? Probably only reading and training. Well, that's all. What else could I say? Next, my name is Uchiha Sasuke. There are many things I don't like, but there is nothing I like. I don't have a dream, but I have a goal to revive my clan and kill one person. Kill someone? An interesting goal. Well, only Sakura remains and the show will be over. Okay. The last one. I am Haruno Sakura. I like, to tell you about my dreams. Oh no! And I don't love Naruto Uzumaki. My hobbies. My condolences to Uchiha. And why doesn't she like me? Although, what difference does it make? Enough. From tomorrow we begin to carry out tasks. Finally! But first, the four of us will do something. With what? With what? With what? Survival training. Sounds interesting. I hope tomorrow won't be so dull. I will be your opponent, but this won't be just training. What then? Well, no, if I tell you, you will definitely freeze with fear. After all, out of 27 academy graduates, only 9 will become genin, the rest will return to the academy. And this training is a test with a failure rate of over 66%. Well, what did I tell you? I'll be paralyzed with fear. Don't underestimate me, sensei. I'm all excited. Finally, a real test. The test will be tomorrow, on the training field. Bring all your weapons. Oh, and don't eat breakfast, you might throw up. You'll find out the details from the printouts. And don't be late. Not late? Considering how late Sensei was today, it sounds like a mockery. However, I'm looking forward to tomorrow, Sensei. The bell test, then? It's kind of weird. She would even say it's murky. What was the point of dividing them into teams just to set a condition that would break them up in the very first test? Only if it's a test? However, Naruto didn't really care if it was a test or not. The commander had set a condition to pass the test: you had to get a bell and Naruto had to get it. It didn't matter whether she was alone or with the team. She wasn't going to fail this test. Fortunately, she wasn't as hungry as her teammates. Still, eating an apple before leaving was a wise decision. It was unlikely that she would have vomited from it, but it dulled the feeling of hunger. And nearby, in addition, there was a stream from which you could drink water, thereby quenching your thirst and dulling your hunger. In general, Naruto, being aimed at becoming strong, if not the strongest, the kunoichi trained herself to stay without food and water for a long time. After all, she was going to be a shinobi, and they come across all sorts of missions. Sitting on a branch of a tree with a very dense crown, the girls slowly chewed the leaves of the grass growing under this very tree. As far as she knew, the juice of this grass dulls hunger and gives a feeling of a short-term surge of strength. However, it should be enough for her until the end of the test. The tree was chosen mostly by chance. Uzumaki simply hid in the nearest, least visible place. The girl did not cherish hopes of setting up an ambush for the teacher. No, she just wanted to observe for a while, assess the situation, watch the actions of her teammates. Of course, there was not much time, but she still would not be able to reach the bell in the forehead. Half an hour later, observation no longer seemed like such a good idea. At least because every member of Team 7 had chosen this option as the most optimal, probably? Naruto's opinions on the situation diverged. On the one hand, there would be little more time and there would be no time left, so it was time to act, especially since the girl was pretty tense, if not infuriated, by the teacher's behavior. On the other hand, going head-on without minimal information and a plan, and alone at that, against Jonin, it was pure suicide. Meanwhile, the teacher was not standing still. More precisely, Naruto was ready to swear that Kakashi-sensei had just moved, but he was still in the same position. Clones? The girl did not rule out such a possibility, and therefore, having pulled a slightly elongated kunai from her pouch, she began to slowly retreat to the tree trunk itself, listening carefully to everything. A rustle on the right alerted the girl. On the left, it alarmed her. Jumping back in one smooth motion so that there was no chance to strike from behind, Uzumaki began to look around anxiously. There was no one nearby, but the girl was not under any illusions. She felt Sensei's chakra somewhere very close, to the right. A sharp lunge, but it was just a clone. It seemed that the teacher went after one of her teammates first. This was slightly upsetting. It meant he considered them more talented, since he decided to deal with them first. A loud scream was heard somewhere nearby. Sakura's scream. Naruto was sure that there were only a little more than 10 minutes left until noon, and not only had she failed to take the bell, she hadn't even been able to find the real sensei among several dozen clones. Sakura was already at the starting clearing, alas and tied to a pole. Naruto still hadn't decided what to do with her, untie her or leave her as is. They were kind of a team, but at the same time one of them was at risk of flying out, so helping someone was not advisable. So all that was left was to watch and have moral dilemmas. Looks like this will be the first test Naruto fails. The alarm rang and Sensei rightly declared their total defeat. As it turned out, only Naruto had not shown up. Uchiha had tried to win on his own, and Haruno simply couldn't hide effectively enough, so she was quickly lured into a genjutsu and defeated without even fighting. Uzumaki didn't know whether to be happy or sad. She wasn't bad, but she wasn't good either. However, there were objectively more reasons to be upset. She had failed to prove herself. She had failed a test for the first time in her life. She would most likely return to the academy again. And she was also hungry. Fortunately, at least everything was in order with the latter. The teacher had returned the bento they had taken from them earlier, but had given strict orders. Sakura was not to be fed or untied. If Hinata had been in Haruno's place, Naruto would have felt sincerely sorry for the girl. But not Sakura. The pink-haired girl had always caused Uzumaki a subconscious dislike, just like all the other children who had shunned her as a child as if she were a leper. Now Naruto knew the reason for such actions, but this did not change the fact and in no way made them right. They were wrong, and they remained wrong. Except that in Naruto's eyes, the villagers were now not just strange, they were also very stupid. How could anyone think that a small child was the incarnation of the nine-tailed demon fox? Naruto herself couldn't even imagine such a thing. And that's why she was very confused when, after successfully passing the genin test, Mizuki-sensei called her to a secluded corner and told her this. Honestly, Naruto still didn't understand his motives. Why would he tell so much top-secret information to a 12-year-old who had barely passed the genin exam? No, the girl understood perfectly well that for some reason the sensei really needed the scroll, which, as he claimed, contained evidence of his words. When Uzumaki came with all this to the Third Lord, he told her that she was a vessel, albeit with obvious reluctance, and also said that the scroll with the alleged evidence actually contained secret techniques. That day couldn't do without gifts, In honor of successfully passing the exam and nominally Naruto's first mission to obtain secret information, the third personally handed her a scroll with a very strange technique, held double. It itself was somewhat reminiscent of the cloning technique, although, according to Mr. Hokage, it was more of a shadow cloning technique, which is not taught at the academy. Thanks to the held double, it was possible to create one of your own doubles, almost a shadow clone, with the only difference being that you could only create one and the double could withstand exactly the same blow as the original. And so the techniques were very similar. Naruto was grateful to the third for such a gift. Of course, she had not yet managed to learn this technique, but she already imagined its potential. However, the pleasant bonuses from the Hokage and the revelation of a terrible secret did not solve their situation. They failed the test. Besides, Naruto had no idea what to do with Sakura. On the one hand, she had a clear order, and if she violated it, she would give her principles and ideals, and on the other, if they had already failed the test, then they were students of the academy again, and technically, an order from the sensei was no longer an order from a commander or a superior. But it was still an order. Now if she had eaten herself or freed herself. What? That was an idea! The red-haired girl took her elongated kunai out of her pouch and simply placed it next to Sakura's palms, tied behind her back. Then she put her bento aside and stood up. I'm not hungry! Chapter 5. A little about mission ranks. To be honest, it was strange. Naruto would never have thought that her strange and perhaps even impulsive act would eventually allow them to pass the Bell exam. After all, teamwork, which, according to the teacher, is more important than the duty of a shinobi, was never a priority for the girl, unlike the same duty of a shinobi. However, this is also debatable. Uzumaki could not say with certainty that she really wants to serve the village hidden in the leaves. Rather, she wants to simply become a strong shinobi, and the village is just a means. However, the red-haired girl should have concentrated, even though the situation allowed her to indulge in memories and reflections from time to time. They were still on a mission. A D-rank mission. To catch a cat. Honestly, Naruto already hated this very cat. The thing is, this was the third time they had been given the task of catching my sweet Tora-chan. And everything would have been fine if Naruto had known that this task wasn't just for them. The girl could confidently say that this scratching beast was as good at escaping as the Ninken. It wasn't that this was a problem for Uzumaki. She spent all her time training for a reason. It was just getting boring. Even with her amazing ability to regenerate, the girl didn't really want to approach this cat. Tora-chan was a very nimble little animal, the kind that after meeting her, you'd find traces of claws even in the most unexpected places. And this time, she was the one sent to swallow this miracle. Naruto even found it funny. All her teammates, including even Sensei, seemed to be afraid of this cat. However, she couldn't say for sure about the teacher. Maybe he was just too lazy. It's not for nothing that he was late for meetings every time. For Naruto, who believed that punctuality was the most important part of the shinobi world, this was like a personal insult. Well, she got distracted by the mission again. This is bad. Very bad. As soon as I have a free day, I'll have to work on this. But for now, I should finally hand this cat over to the customer and go on the next similar mission. How annoying it is. Naruto understood perfectly well that they would not be able to achieve anything higher than rank C until they became Chunin. The girl realized that even this very rank C was not in the cards for them yet, but even understanding this did not save her from the feeling of universal boredom that rolled over her during the execution of each subsequent mission. The only thing that made her happy in all this was the presence of payment. Money was never superfluous, especially for Naruto. Every day they carried out 2, 3, 4 or even 5 missions, and although the salary from each of them was not particularly large, but in total it was enough for a comfortable life. The girl was finally able to stabilize her diet, because saving on food often resulted in problems with the speed of growth or rapid fatigue during training, and the constant consumption of instant ramen is harmful to the health of an adult, not to mention a child. So the money was really useful to her. Especially since the girl spent her earnings not only on food. Ninjas generally constantly need a lot of different things: protection, weapons, scrolls, clothes that often get torn and dirty on missions. And the girl had to buy all of this with the first money she earned. Uzumaki also put aside a little money every day for scrolls and brushes. Calligraphy and fuinjutsu were her cherished dream, if you can call it that. It's just a pity that she couldn't afford it before. She barely had enough money for food and clothes, so what kind of writing utensils or, even more so, scrolls for fuin could we talk about? However, this did not stop her. Yes, she could not train in practice. But what prevented her from learning the theory and trying to draw with a stick on water or earth? Yes, this did not give the desired result, but there was also benefit from it. Already now the girl knew more than 700 various symbols used in fuinjutsu, and various combinations that are possible or theoretically possible. Another thing is that she could not reproduce them due to lack of practice, but still. Oh, this is not the time to withdraw into yourself. You need to finally hand over the cat to Daimyo's wife and get the next task. Hopefully it won't be so dull. Your next tasks: you must babysit the elder's grandson, go shopping in another village and help with the potato harvest. God, no! Can we get something more serious? Honestly, even Naruto herself didn't expect this from herself. Of all people, she would never contradict a superior in rank, much less the Hokage. Lord Third knew this too, so his face stretched out in surprise didn't come as much of a surprise to the girl, nor did the surprise coming from her teammates. Ahem, you see, Naruto, every task has its own rank. Well, Mr. Third has once again launched into spatial explanations of what everyone already knows. Mr. Hokage, do you really believe that I don't know all this? Category D is just for you. Are you serious, Mr. Third? We are the team of this year's best graduates. Our strength is already above rank D. However, I have a Category C task for you. You will have to escort one person. Well, finally. Naruto wasn't sure, but as far as she knew, C rank was a more specialized job, intended exclusively for ninja, and even if their task was just an escort, it would definitely be much more interesting than weeding the beds or catching cats. Wonderful! Naruto could say with certainty that she didn't like the customer. He was unkempt, drunk, ill-mannered, and also behaved openly boorishly. However, he was within his rights. He who pays the price is right. And her attitude towards Mr. Tazuna shouldn't somehow affect the mission itself, although, Naruto admitted, the girl's desire to hit him, which appeared after the very first comment addressed to her, never disappeared. However, she was not one of those who showed her emotions, especially so openly. The mission itself was to protect, or more specifically, to escort the bridge builder Tazuna to Nami no Kuni, the land of waves. Not that the customer looked much like a bridge builder, but according to the assignment, that's what he was. And he needed to be protected from bandits. At least according to the assignment. Slightly speeding up step, Naruto caught up with Kakashi-sensei. 200 meters ahead. Near the puddle. The girl really didn't like feeling but not seeing the opponents. After all, knowing about the ambush didn't save from the ambush itself, only making the group more prepared for it. At such moments, the girl was very envious of the Hyugas with their Byakugan. Chapter 6: A little about the delights of praise. Naruto slowly returned to her position. Sensei had been warned, and that was the most important thing. He was their captain now, and that meant it was up to him to decide what to do about the threat she had discovered. The girl casually adjusted her weapon bag. Sometimes it's better to know nothing about an ambush. You don't have a chance to give yourself away and alarm the enemy. Of course, in that case you have a higher chance of dying. In any case, this is clearly not something to think about at the moment. Uzumaki really didn't like that the puddle along with the enemy chakra was left behind. The girl really wanted to turn around and not expose her back to the enemy. But if the captain ignored them, then it had to be that way. And she couldn't thwart the Jonin's plan, whatever it was. But she wasn't very good at ignoring her instincts either. The girl could have sworn that she felt the hair in her buns stand on end. And the chakra behind began to stir. In a matter of moments, two ugly bodies appeared from the puddle, between which stretched a strange chain, attached to strange-looking gloves. Another moment and the unknown shinobi, and the girl was sure that they were shinobi, were already near their sensei. She barely managed to realize that there were enemies in front of her, and not camouflage behind her, when they pulled the chain around Kakashi-san, and he was torn apart. Or rather, it seemed that way. The girl clearly sensed the sensei's chakra less than 20 meters away from her, so he was probably alive, which meant there was nothing to worry about. Except maybe the mercenary ninjas, who clearly did not come here to tell fairy tales. Another moment, and Naruto does not see, feels how the chakra of the opponents has shifted in her direction. A quick jump with the left leg, closer to the tree, and then a low roll on the ground, this time to the right, and now she is already behind one of the enemies. Since they carry one weapon between them, it means that they are weaker alone. A dash forward, while the enemy is confused. Do not forget to grab this special, elongated, kunai on the move, and now one of the enemies cannot move with a weapon at his throat. At the same time, Uchiha aims a shuriken at the tree, intentionally catching the chain, and then a kunai, driving the first weapon into the trunk and jamming the chain, thereby forcing the enemies to detach the chain from the gloves. The free enemy rushes towards the customer, apparently hoping to first complete the mission, and then free his comrade. A quick blow to the knee, and then to the back of the head with the blunt part of a kunai, to the surprise of Naruto, knocks out the enemy in her hands, so she can move again. However, the girl does not rush to help her teammate, continuing to hold the unconscious enemy. Instead, her teammate rushes, ready to cover Haruno with himself, but this is not necessary. Kakashi-sensei appears in front of the genin, as if from nowhere, and easily neutralizes the remaining enemy. The battle is over. Now you can breathe a sigh of relief. They are all alive, the customer was not hurt, and the enemies are neutralized. For reasons unknown to Uzumaki, this gives a noticeable surge of energy, and a long-forgotten feeling of joy from a job well done. Sorry for not intervening right away, although you could have been hurt. However, you are all great, you tried very hard. And praise, it turns out, is nice. You just want to smile from ear to ear or even laugh, loudly, long, with a heartbeat. Or is this the onset of hysteria? It's hard to say. No one has ever praised Naruto before, so there is nothing to compare it to. Tazuna-san, what? I want to talk to you. They are Chunin of the Hidden Mist. They are known for never giving up. Chunins. It's a miracle that I managed to knock out one of them. Naruto was never prone to overestimating her strength. If her opponents had even the slightest idea of her abilities, she would have lost. This time, the element of surprise simply worked in her favor. Nothing more. Naruto still couldn't understand how they had finally agreed to this. That is, yes, she remembered perfectly well how Kakashi-san had started to burden the customer with facts and persuade him to return to the village. She remembered how Sakura had supported the sensei. She remembered how the customer had started to press on the pity and reputation of the village. But she still couldn't understand, why did they continue the mission? However, if the teacher decided so, then it must be so. She is not the boss, so it is not up to her to decide. It is not her responsibility. All she can do is sit silently on the edge of the boat, slowly sailing towards the bridge visible in the fog, and look around warily. They are already in enemy territory, so they should be as careful as possible. 7 A little about internal contradictions. Naruto wanted nothing more than to just return to the village. Why, one wonders, did she get a captain who, despite the obvious lack of preparation of their team, did not refuse a mission whose complexity greatly exceeded not only that which was stipulated in the order, but also that which their team could carry out? No, the girl of course believed in her teammates, but, reasoning sensibly, it was not difficult to guess that further on they would face only stronger enemies, and Uzumaki reasonably feared that they might not be able to cope with them. Even with Kakashi-sensei. Therefore, the imminent attack was more expected than unexpected for the girl, but no less unpleasant, and seemed to confirm all her assumptions. Even those that the girl desperately did not want to confirm. It wasn't hard to dodge the flying sword with her reaction, but the ninja who had obviously appeared after his weapon didn't add optimism to the already somewhat depressed girl. judging by the barely noticeable reaction of their captain, their opponent was clearly not simple and too dangerous for the genin, which was what Naruto had expected, rightly believing that the matter would not end with just two mercenaries, no matter how much she wanted it to be otherwise. And the next words of Kakashi-sensei confirmed and even strengthened Uzumaki's fears. The fugitive ninja of the mist, the still uncaught renegade, was clearly not an opponent for a bunch of newbies. Besides, she was tormented by vague suspicions that, since Hatake knew the opponent by sight and name, he was clearly not a simple fugitive. And when the captain made it clear, even verbally, that they should at least not interfere, and at most get away, the girl believed in it completely. They should return to Konoha while they had such an opportunity. However, despite the internal protest, which came as a surprising surprise even to Naruto herself, she unquestioningly carried out the further order to protect the customer, and was firmly determined not to even try to get involved in the fight without a direct order to do so. Then, however, there was a pompous, but in general, in Uzumaki's opinion, meaningless educational minute, where everyone who was not too lazy told a little about themselves and their enemy, as if saying that they knew a little more than they were showing. It could even seem funny. And then the entire clearing was covered in fog and Naruto stopped thinking about anything except the enemy's possible next move. But even despite this, the powerful wave of ki became an unpleasant surprise for her. The girl had not felt such a strong, almost primordial horror in herself for a long time, under the influence of which even death did not seem such a bad prospect. However, the captain's words were able to remove such a strong negative effect, although not as easily as they would have liked. They even inspired some hope for a possible, albeit illusory, success of this mission. And then Zabuza appeared right behind their backs, and only the quick reaction of Kakashi-sensei saved them from injuries that were most likely incompatible with life. The battle continued with varying success, creating the appearance that one side was in the lead, then the other, right up to the appearance of a water prison. In fact, it is not surprising that it was the water, in the immediate vicinity of which the battle took place, that became the key factor that turned the tide of the battle. After all, their opponent was a native of the land of fog and probably knew many techniques related to this very water. However, one could think about the irony of fate later. After all, right now things were bad for them. And later, a water clone almost knocked her off her feet. A timely block of course saved her from hitting the ground, but the blow was so strong that the girl was still thrown back several meters, almost right next to her teammates. The next order from the commander was the first, but perhaps not the only one, that Naruto deliberately disobeyed. The girl understood perfectly well. They would not go far. Yes, perhaps retreating would give them a break, but they would lose the captain, and therefore any chance of returning alive from the mission. They were already in another country, and they would hardly be allowed to escape from here. They would either complete the mission or die. And if they retreated now, the second option would become many times more likely. Them urgently needed was plan, but here which,